Welcome back. I'm David Wilson, leadership coach and founder of Dominion Street Coaching. Today, I want to reflect on something which I think increasingly distinguishes genuinely effective leaders from merely competent managers, and that's the importance of a coaching mindset. Now, when people hear the word coaching, they often imagine something formal: performance reviews, executive coaching sessions, perhaps a structured development program. But I think a coaching mindset is something much deeper than that. It's really a way of seeing people. At its heart, a coaching mindset begins with the belief that people are not simply resources to be deployed. They're individuals with potential to be developed. Now, that sounds obvious. Most leaders would say they believe that. But in practice, pressure often pushes us in the opposite direction. Targets need to be hit. Problems need solving. Decisions need making quickly. And under pressure, leaders can drift into becoming problem solvers for everyone else. We tell rather than ask. We direct rather than develop. And we provide answers rather than creating space for reflection. Now, there are moments when decisive leadership is absolutely necessary. Some situations genuinely require clarity, speed, and authority. But if that becomes the default mode, then organizations slowly become dependent cultures. People wait to be told. Initiative diminishes and creativity narrows. And then leaders themselves become exhausted because every important problem eventually lands back on their desk. A coaching mindset changes that dynamic. The coaching leader is not primarily asking, how do I solve this problem? They're asking, how do I help this person think more clearly, grow in confidence, and take ownership? That shift is transformational, but it does require work. It requires listening more carefully. It requires tolerating silence occasionally. And it requires resisting the temptation to interrupt with your own wisdom 5 seconds into the conversation. And if we're honest, that can be surprisingly difficult for experienced leaders, particularly those who've reached senior positions precisely because they're intelligent, decisive, and knowledgeable. But one of the paradoxes of leadership is that the more senior you become, the less valuable your own answers often are compared with your ability to unlock the thinking of others. The best leaders I've worked with create capacity around them. They leave people stronger, not smaller. People come away from conversations with them thinking more clearly, feeling more trusted, and often discovering that they already possessed more of the answer than they thought. A coaching mindset also requires some degree of humility because it accepts that leadership is not about being the smartest person in the room. It's about creating the conditions in which the room itself becomes smarter. And that's particularly important now, where complexity is simply too great for any one individual to hold all the answers. The old heroic model of leadership, the all-knowing figure at the top, is increasingly inadequate and increasingly inaccurate. Modern leaders require curiosity. They require emotional intelligence, the ability to ask good questions, and the discipline to develop others intentionally. A coaching mindset also changes the emotional climate of organizations. People flourish where they feel seen, where they feel heard, and where they feel trusted. A coaching leader communicates trust in subtle but powerful ways. They ask for perspectives. They encourage reflection. They create psychological safety for honest conversations. And over time, that builds cultures where people are more willing to take responsibility, to innovate, and sometimes even to fail intelligently. And this matters not only for performance, but for human dignity, because leadership always has a moral dimension. Leaders shape environments in which people either grow or diminish. And a coaching mindset recognizes that part of leadership is stewardship of human potential. Now, none of this means being endlessly gentle or avoiding accountability. Good coaching is not indulgence. In fact, the best coaches are often deeply challenging, but they challenge in a way that enables growth rather than fear. They hold high standards while also believing in the person's capacity to reach them. And perhaps that combination, challenge with belief, is one of the most powerful gifts a leader can offer. I think this is especially relevant for leaders working in high-pressure environments where competence is highly valued and vulnerability can feel risky. I've seen it in banking and in the law. In those environments, leaders can unconsciously create cultures of anxiety and self-protection. But leaders with a coaching mindset create something different. They create cultures of learning, and learning cultures are resilient cultures. So perhaps a useful question for any leader is this: when people leave conversations with me, do they become more dependent on me or more capable themselves? That's quite a revealing test, because ultimately leadership is not measured simply by personal achievement. It's measured by the extent to which we enable others to grow, to contribute, and to flourish. And I think the leaders people remember most positively are rarely those who simply impress them with authority or expertise. They're the ones who helped them because they became more than they thought they could be. Thanks for listening.